Hey y'all, welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Charlene and this is my very first YouTube video on my channel. So before I get started, a little background on me. I have been playing Sims since it very first started back in the year 2000. I received it as a Christmas gift when I was a teenager. I had been begging my mother for it for like 3 months because I had heard about it coming out. So I received it for Christmas when I was a teenager and kind of never stopped playing after that. So I'm huge into video games anyway. I'm a very creative person, very creative minded. I like crafts and crafting things and making things and building stuff. So this kind of just was right up my alley. So I haven't really put the game down ever since it very first came out, and same thing with all the other versions that came out after that very first one. So all the way up until a few years ago when I got Sims 4. So I figured that this was a good channel for me to just go ahead and start because it just made sense. It's something that I love to do, something I've been doing for a long time. And to be completely honest, I haven't really gotten serious into Sims building until Sims 4. And I think it's because, in my opinion, the building mode in Sims 4 is the most, I guess, all-inclusive. There's so much to it. I know that some of the other versions of Sims had some things about each individual items where you could change them a little bit more and customize them a little bit more. But with all the expansion packs and all the different things you can do in the Sims worlds now, I feel like the Sims 4 is the most expansive of all the packs, of all the versions of the game. Sorry, not of all the packs. Speaking about the expansion packs, got me thinking like that. So anyway, this one here, I was modeling after a home that is located kind of near where I live right now. I'm located in the Midwest area right now. So I was actually born and raised in the Northeast United States, in Massachusetts. Moved to the Midwest, I don't know, like 15 years ago when I was in my 20s, and have lived here kind of ever since. So it's kind of my new home. It's my second home. So this home right here that I'm designing, it's called the Killinur, and it's a home that I designed based on a home of a very similar design that is actually right down the street from where I live. There's a neighborhood down the street from where I live that has some of the most beautiful architecture in their homes in this area that you can see. Of course, it means that it's one of the most expensive and most prestigious areas to live in, but it is a nice area to drive through for inspiration for things like this. So I'm one of those people who's always just trolling Pinterest and looking online for images of all different kinds of homes to kind of study the architecture and see kind of the construction, how the house is built, and each little facet of all of it. I'm just, like I said, kind of creative minded person, so that stuff just fascinates me. So can't ever get me off Pinterest. So I guess I'm a very typical person, typical girl when it comes to that. Love Pinterest. I don't even really do a whole lot on there. I just like to search, and I just type in architecture, and I type in the particular kind of house I'm looking for, like whether it's Victorian or traditional or craftsman, and the results just keep flowing, and it's awesome for inspiration. So this house here, it's going to be a 2-story, 5-bedroom, 3-bath home. It has a master suite or a primary suite, and then 4 additional bathrooms. I mean, not bathrooms, bedrooms. It has a kids room, or a kids game room, I should say, like a kids play area. It has 2 living rooms. So it has like the more formal one, and then kind of more like the den / family room kind of thing. It has a formal dining room. It has a kitchen as an office, of course, and it has a backyard oasis, as I like to call it, because it has this amazing pool area, and then this separate kind of backyard barbecue / kids area. So it also has 3 terraces, so you can see right now I'm working on a few of them here, this kind of double layer terrace thing I have going on the side. You'll see here in actually just a minute that I switch from a 30 by 20 lot to a 40 by 30 lot because I think my stomach was thinking smaller than my head. Like, you know how they say like, oh, your eyes are bigger than your stomach. I guess this was the opposite for me. My eyes were smaller than my stomach in terms of building because I thought that I could fit it all on a 30 by 20 lot. But as I started building this kind of side terrace, double-decker terrace / sunroom thing, I realized I probably wouldn't have the space to continue building. So you'll see here in just a minute, I switch over to a 40 by 30 lot. So as you can see, like I said, I'm building kind of that sunroom / terrace that's going to be up there on the second floor. And I'm doing this facade kind of in a darker reddish brick. It was something that the particular home that I received the inspiration from, this was actually what they had, was this kind of darker, richer looking brick kind of all over. As you can see in the front of the house, when you watched me build the front of it, there was a section of it that wasn't brick. It was kind of like this white plastery looking front. And there's some other parts, kind of more accent pieces. You'll see where I don't actually have it in brick, but I have it kind of more in that white plaster. Okay, so you can see here we've moved on to the 40 by 30 lot. As you can tell, I like I said, my eyes were smaller than my stomach here. I didn't think I was going to need that much space, but I did need this much space. So I'm building that small hallway / extension area that leads to the very back portion of the house. Again, this kind of is what leads to whether you go toward the right side of the house or the left side of the house, to go out to either the backyard pool area or into that little backyard oasis area with the barbecue and the swing set and that kind of stuff, more like the family area versus like the pool oasis area. So I just thought that it would be kind of neat to have them separate. I usually do homes, like when I've built in the past, the homes I do are very typical homes where I have the front of the house, there might be kind of an extension in the back of the house, but the backyard area is pretty much in one general location. There might be like one or two little things kind of strewn throughout the property, but for the most part in the past I've done the properties where I have the backyard kind of in one central location. So everything's there. The pool's there, the swing set's there, the barbecue's there. And it might be very spread out. It might be very kind of congested and condensed depending on the size of the lot in the house. But with this one, I was like, I have this large house and I really didn't want to have to build it on another 50 by 50 or 64 by 64 lot because I kind of get sick of building on those huge lots because I feel like there's too much space and I kind of run out of ideas to fill it. So I went with this, again, like you saw, I wanted the 30 by 20 lot, but I ended up upgrading to this 40 by 30 lot. And I did find some things to fill in the gaps in the areas that you don't really have anything really going on without at least I tried to make it not look too cluttered. Now I do like it when my stuff is clean. You'll learn if I continue to make more of these videos, you'll see. Or as I continue to make more of these videos, you'll see. I do like the kind of more cluttered, lived-in look. I'm not as huge of a fan of making that more like modern, sleek, everything's clean lines, clean this, clean that, everything is spotless. Because in my mind, that's not as realistic, and I'm more of like a realistic builder. When it comes to my Sim 4 builds, I like things to be more realistic. Like, can I picture myself or a friend or a family member living in this house? That's where I kind of draw my inspiration from. It's kind of more like real life scenarios. Now, of course, it's a game, and there are some times where the builds I build are a little ostentatious or kind of completely not applicable to real life scenarios. But for the most part, I like to think more when I derive my inspiration more from the real life scenarios and real houses, things like that. So as you can see here, I'm starting on that kind of the pool backyard oasis side. So when you're looking at the front of the house, it's on the left-hand side. So I'm working on that backyard. It's kind of more like a gardeny pool area with just like serene and relaxing. You'll see I do this perimeter of just like bushes and trees, and there's a couple gardening sections where whoever lives there can plant a couple of beautiful flowers or whatever that they would like. So I did have a little trouble with these platforms. I'm not the greatest with the platforms. There are some things on Sims where I feel like I've done it so many times I can do it with my eyes closed, but of course I chose my very first video on YouTube doing something I'm not as super comfortable with, but that's okay. So you can see as I was building it a couple minutes ago, like when I would raise the platform up, the fences would disappear, and then the fences would go back, and then I would have to draw them back, and then they would disappear again. So I did kind of find a workaround for it, but I'm not as comfortable with the random platforms, and I almost made that little pool area just ground level, but I thought separating it from the garden area by like lifting it up and creating its own little space away from the trees and the bushes around it kind of gave it its own more like space. You know, it's not as in the brush of the bushes and the trees and things like that. So I did kind of want to lift it, separate it, and also if it's lifted like that, you kind of have more, I guess, of a nice view of the beautiful trees and bushes and things like that, because you are a little bit more lifted up. So I just also thought that it would be kind of a neat concept. It's something I had never done before. Again, I don't know if I did the best job. You tell me in the comments, but I did have fun trying, and all the trial and error, more error than trial, but that's okay. So as you can see here, I actually pulled the building back a little bit, and I'm creating this kind of sunroom area. So I kind of got the inspiration from, again, the house that I actually drew this inspiration from. It was a corner lot house. So that's kind of also why I liked picking this lot here that I chose for the house as well when I decided to go up to the 40 by 30 lot. Because again, it is more on that like corner lot where there's a street on each side of it. But anyway, so the house that I saw in real life, it was a corner lot. So I was actually able to see like quite a bit of the piece of property. And some of this inspiration that I drew comes from all of the sides of it, because I was able to see so many sides of the house itself. So on the left-hand side of the house, if you're facing the front of the house, the left-hand side, they had this little kind of like courtyardy looking sunroom. I couldn't really tell because their backyard area on the left-hand side of their house was so grown with these beautiful bushes and flowers and trees and just all this natural stuff that was making it kind of hard to see. But it also is what gave me the inspiration for doing the same to this backyard side on this house, because it just felt so like peaceful and relaxing and just so inviting and cozy. And I kind of wanted this house to have that same feeling because again, it is kind of more on like the sterile side on the exterior, because it is brick. Like it makes you think like of a school, you know, or like an old abandoned factory that's been remade into a house. So the all over red, dark red brick, even though it's kind of that warm color, it's not necessarily the most inviting looking. It's more like stately looking, you know, just more like I said, stately looking, but not necessarily the most cozy looking. So but yeah, I did want to kind of offset that with the vibe that I had in the backyard on both sides of it. So, and again, that inspiration I got from the house that I saw in real life. So you'll see that if you ever just decide to peruse through my gallery on The Sims Online, you'll see that a lot of my houses kind of have more of that like realistic flair to them, where it's almost like it's a house that's been drawn or inspired based on a real house, as opposed to a house that I'm making up in my mind entirely. And it's because that's pretty much true. I drew inspiration from real life in most of my builds. So of course there's a few where I really did, and you usually can tell if you look at my gallery. And I'll drop my gallery ID in the description of this video so you can get it and look it up. But you'll see, you can tell the ones that are not drawn from real life, because you're like, where did this come from? Like, why? This makes no sense. But I thought it was cute, or I liked the idea, or I wanted to try something new, because like I said, I'm not the greatest at the styles like the modern or things like that. So every now and then I'll try and conquer it, and I do horribly. Trust me. I still consider myself more on, I wouldn't say novice, but I also wouldn't say expert in terms of being a Sims creator / builder, because I think that unless I have inspiration from real life, I have a hard time conjuring up a concept for a house. And I know a lot of people are like that, but I just feel like I'm stealing other people's ideas when I do that. So that's why I feel like I'm not necessarily one who should be getting all the credit. But anyway, so as you can see here in the backyard, I'm adding the bushes, given that lush, overgrown, kind of cozy backyard oasis feeling. You'll see a few times here I switch out some of the bushes, just the way that they kind of catch with the house or the fence itself that I built. I just didn't like the way it looked. I also kind of get frustrated. One thing I'm not a huge fan of here in the Sims 4 world is when you're building and the lighting sometimes isn't quite right. It's hard to get it right unless you actually have a Sim living on that lot and you wait until the time of day where it's the perfect lighting for you. Or again, you do that time cheat where you can jump ahead in time and then go into build mode. But I don't tend to build a whole lot, and I plan on doing it if continue with this channel. I do intend to do some builds that are more challenging, but I kind of tend to just more go for that like free build where I can choose anything from the gallery that they have as far as options. And same thing as well with the debug and the live edit options as well. As far as like what I can choose in terms of the items, because I know that if you are in a house that has a Sim living in it, sometimes you're restricted on the items you can choose and things that you can spend. I like kind of just going with whatever my mind has, and then at the end of the day I look at the price tag and I'm like, oh my god, that's so expensive. No one's going to be able to afford to live in this house. So I tried to do, I think, a starter home like last year. I think in my gallery, you can find it if you'd like, if you want to go through my gallery. But I just, again, it's hard when I have to limit myself and be realistic, Sims is more about kind of just escaping reality and doing things that you can't do in real life. So I want to get the house that I want, or I want to build the house that I want. So I know that some of you like me probably get these houses by using the money cheats and things like that, and that's perfectly fine. So this house definitely can't be purchased with starter funds. I think it ended up being, I can't remember if it's a little over 110,000 or 210,000. I think it's a little over like 110,000. It's like 114,000 or something, I think. Again, I may have made some changes between when I checked last and when this actually was posted to my gallery, so it might be a little different, but it's not like it's going to be anything crazy different. So again, can't be purchased with starter funds, but it's still not the most expensive by far build that I've made. Definitely done much more expensive builds, a lot more on the, I guess, ostentatious side, as you could call it, like where I go all out and just buy the most expensive things and just buy things that you don't even really need, but hey, I need that because I can, like, heck yeah, I need 3 jacuzzis because why? I don't know, because why not, So anyway, this one's more on the realistic side as far as price. It's not too over the top, but still can't be purchased with the starter funds. So as you can see, I have moved on to the other side, the other backyard side. I'm just copying over some of the plants and the fencing that I use on the left-hand side of the house. I kind of tend to like to keep things more on the cohesive side. I'm not as big of a fan as when you use tons of different, I guess, bushes and flowers and things like that. and I've done that before, and don't get me wrong, it looks fine most of the time, but I can never get it to look right. Mine looks like a complete mess. It looks like somebody planted these flowers with their eyes closed, and they have no idea what they planted or where they planted it, and it's only until they start growing that anybody knows what they are, or where they're going to grow. So I tend to try and limit myself to a few different types of flowers and bushes, and tend to try and stick with those for that more cohesive look. So that's why I kind of copied over some of the fencing, and then you'll see here in a minute I copy over some of the bushes and the flowers and things like that, and the hedges, to keep that cohesive look. So I did have a little bit of trouble with the fence on both sides, actually, but I think here I kind of figured it out for this side at least. On the other side, I don't think I was actually able to figure it out for part of it. I had to kind of just create a gap and put some hedges in between to kind of create that barrier, as opposed to actually having a fence. At least I'm pretty sure that's what I had to do. I don't remember exactly if I was able to figure it out or not, but I don't think I was. So you can see here I'm putting that hedge line in, put this nice little swing set, because I did create kind of more like a couple of teenager rooms, and I did create a nursery as well. I tend to create kids rooms, so it was kind of different for me. I've done it before, but nothing quite like this. Was different for me to create this nursery that you'll see that I created. And I say you'll see it, but if you watch my next video that I'll be posting probably here very soon in the next few weeks, again, only because I'm still new at this, hopefully, as I get more familiar with posting videos, I'll do it more often and won't leave you hanging on the interior side of the build so long. But on the inside, you'll see on the interior video, I do have this more like actual nursery, because most of the time I tend to make my rooms more multi-purpose. I hate to create a nursery. I like to make it so it can have a baby and a toddler. Like, I like to put a bassinet and a toddler bed. I don't tend to make it like one specific age group, but this time I actually did make this really nice nursery and a couple of kids / teenager rooms. It kind of could go either way depending. And then of course I just have a couple of like more like on the adult sides. I have a couple of rooms that have like double beds in them and things like that. So as you can see here, I copied over the hedges and some of those flowers and bushes from the other side, the other backyard. And I'm just kind of putting them in kind of more like a random order. I like to be more sporadic with the bushes and the plants in general, because I think anything, unless of course you're the build kind of calls for a more structured look, I don't like it when the plants have that structured kind of rigid hard lines and that symmetry where it's so exact. Now, I do kind of tend to stray on the side of symmetry, especially in the front. And I say that, but here it's like really looks like I'm trying to be symmetric. I've got two backyards with the same plants on each side and the same fence on each side. But, you know, again, this is kind of a more uncommon build for me. But as far as the plant life goes in my builds, I tend to be more overgrown, more natural looking, I guess is the word I'm looking for. So here I'm just adding in a couple more trees, putting some terrain paint down on the ground here to make it look more lived in, more natural. When it comes to trees, I tend to, but I do sometimes, but I tend to not just like to just stick a tree. I tend to like a little terrain paint. Sometimes I put a plant or two and a rock around it, because I feel like in real life that's more like what it would look like. And you can see here I'm just adjusting some of this terrain paint because of changes I made. And we're on to, I think it's the front I'm heading to now, I think. Sometimes when it comes to my builds, I do like to just take a second. I like to look at the gallery post. I try and go like I'm gonna try and save it to the gallery really quick, because I have made the mistake before where I have gone all the way through a build and then it was facing the wrong way. So I think we've all done that before. If you've been playing Sims long enough and you're a builder at least, I'm sure you've made that mistake. But I felt really, really, really not smart after that. So again, I like to, at least before the very end of my build, when I'm kind of getting towards being finished with the actual outside, I do like to double check. I usually do lay down a piece of wall to make sure I am facing the right way, but sometimes even that's done the wrong way and I still mess it up. So I do like to verify before I get all the way done with my build and have to go place it on a completely different lot, which again would be twice for this house, because again, don't forget, I started on the 30 by 20 lot to begin with, so didn't want to have to move it again. So as you can see, I kind of did that more like, again, overgrown looking plant life look on the front, more on the symmetrical side where I have about the same amount on each side, but it is the same flowers and bushes, but it is kind of more on that sporadic overgrown look. So this particular side of the house that we're looking at right now, I did have a little bit of trouble with. You'll see here I do place a few different bushes and hedges pieces and flowers, and I just had a hard time finding something that I liked the way it looked. And if I did like the way I looked, it kind of clipped through that window right there in that little sunroom, and it looked horrible. So I think I ended up going with, I completely forget actually what I totally went with. I changed it so many times. I don't really 100% remember. Was it these hedges? I think maybe I ended up going with and adding a little bit of more flowers and bushes around it. So again, I don't mind a little bit of clipping, but I am a little bit more, okay, it looks like I did keep those bushes or hedges, I guess. I tend to be more on like that. I don't really like clipping very much. I like it to be more neat and orderly. So if it clips even a little bit, I try my best to make it so it doesn't clip at all. But again, I do want it to look nice. And if it looks nice from the outside and looks a little clippy on the inside, I'm willing to sacrifice that for a build that looks nice. So one of the things in the inspiration house that I really liked was that they had these kind of tall pines that were surrounding the sunroom on the left side facing the other street. So as you can see here, I'm planting these trees here. I'm putting these trees here. They were about this height. They were about as tall as the sunroom itself, about 1 story tall. And I just kind of liked that look because it was like, you'll see, or you won't see if you watch my video, you'll see for the the interior. I don't put any window treatments in that room. I don't put any draperies or anything like that. So I figure like that's kind of like, it's a little bit of privacy for who is ever in that little sunroom area. Those little bushes or tall bushes / short trees, I guess, whichever. So I kind of liked that because again, there were so many windows in that little sunroom area. When I do sunrooms, I tend to not put window treatments in them. I say that, but I'm really bad with window treatments in general. I don't know why. I forget them half the time. Like, they're not necessary to function. So, I just like, it's not like it's a toilet or a sink or a fridge. I'll get halfway through, live testing it and I'm like, oh my God, I completely forgot. No, that's not the way it is with window treatments. I'm like, whatever, who cares? It's a window treatment. So they're like not very expensive in the game. So if you really like that much, you can put them on. But in here, I did use window treatments on all the rooms, of course, with the exception of that sunroom. So, which again, whose sunroom actually would have window treatments? It's a sun room, right? Isn't that the idea? Is that you want the sun in there as opposed to not? So, so you'll see I kind of have that, or again, I keep saying you'll see, but you won't see if you don't watch the video. So that I make. Hopefully, I do have a few days off here from work here soon. So I'm hoping to kind of use that time wisely. It's Christmas time. You think I would be trying to wrap presents for my kid, but whatever. I'm going to spend it here on YouTube trying to upload these videos. So yeah. Here I'm just kind of finishing out. I do like it when the front yard is a little bit more manicured looking with a little bit of that like overgrown, maybe it's been a few days, it needs kind of its grass cut or something like that. Again, as you'll see with more of my builds, I like that more lived in look. So all right, you can see here I'm finishing up this little terrace, and this actually is going to be it for our exterior. I am so happy that you all joined me for my first video here on YouTube, and I hope you stay tuned for more videos. Thanks so much for joining me. Have a nice day. Bye.